Hello, this is Rob Mazak, and I'd like to take a moment to welcome you to the Life by Mazak podcast channel. Here on this channel, anything is possible. Any subject will and usually is discussed, and there's no telling how this message will unfold as we work through an idea, through an experience, or through a thought. These subjects come from the vast amount of information and experience through spirit, through life lessons, and from working with a lot of other people. Scripts are never used on this channel, and the message simply unfolds as the subject is discussed. Follow along and see where it leads us, or more specifically, where it leads me. These podcasts are produced in the hopes of helping others to benefit, to grow, and to excel in their own human experience. At Life by Mazak, we work towards helping you achieve wellness for your mind, your body, and your soul using many specialized services. Services that include psychic medium and tarot readings, quantum healing hypnosis, past life regression, intuitive Reiki healing, life coaching, and many other services. If you enjoyed this podcast, please click the like button and share this with others. Our goal is to reach as many people as we can with the knowledge that is shared on this podcast channel. Hello, we're coming to you from Austin, Texas, where the weather was super warm yesterday, shorts and everything, had to wear a sweatshirt and long sweatpants to play soccer today. Craziness. The weather just seems to be shifting left and right in all kind of crazy ways. That's not really what I wanted to talk about. What I wanted to talk a little bit about was the fact that many, many people are going online now, social media especially, doing their short videos, clips, reels, different things like that, and putting out predictions. It seems that a lot of people have decided that they are connected, that they have expertise in predicting things, gift of prophecy, being a psychic, being a medium, whatever. I do claim to be a psychic medium, and that's where I wanted to speak from on this topic, because I don't know that predicting things is always something that is going to be fact. Even if you have seen something so vividly, so accurate in your mind and in your thoughts and in your consciousness that it seems absolutely real to you, and you put it out there and nothing happens. I mean, how many times have we gone through lots and lots of different events and times when I remember back in I don't even remember when it was, where there was, I guess, a religious type of group back in, I think before 2012, if I'm not mistaken, where they had predicted that, or the leader of this particular group predicted that the end of the world was coming and that everybody needed to go ahead and sell off all their stuff, get ready for the Savior to show up. And I think it even went so far as to show up in some type of craft or UFO or ship of some sort. The crazy thing is, of course, that didn't happen. But the strange thing is that the power of belief in what you say to people causes people to continue to stay on with this person. Because he said he had gotten another message, that the original message was changed because humanity wasn't quite ready or something of the sort. I'm probably mixing up the story a little bit. But if you look back in history, many, many times, over and over and over again, there has been many, many predictions that things are coming. The end of the world is coming. The rapture is coming. Dread and gloom is coming. All kind of things are going to happen. I've seen so many predictions leading up to the Super Bowl, which is happening right now. I haven't watched the Super Bowl or even a football game in years. I've kind of given up on spending my time doing that. I'd rather do something more productive instead of watching other people make millions of dollars. I mean, it's entertainment, I guess, and I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. Just for me, I don't do that. But I've looked at a lot of different predictions about bad things that are going to happen in this Super Bowl. And so far, I guess it's probably near halftime, I guess, if I'm guessing my time correctly, that I don't think anything's happened. I don't really think anything's going to happen. And I think we got to be careful, for one thing, putting out our predictions, saying things to people, and creating a belief in something that, in a lot of ways and a lot of times, is not going to happen. The other thing is that we have to be careful what we listen to, because we can easily be fooled. We can be led down a road that is not the road you should be on. I am not saying by any means that predictions can come true, that we can see forward, we can get glimpses of what's going to happen, because it happens to me all the time. But I've also become very careful about what I say to people, how I say that, because I actually learned this little tidbit from a client who had come in one day for a reading. I think it was just to do the tarot, if I'm not mistaken. But she brought this up. She said that she had had a reading about something and it had come true. But in her mind, she was really tossing that around. And she asked the question / gave a statement, something to the effect that, I wonder if what this other person, this other psychic, saw and predicted came true because my belief in what she was saying created the reality that I brought forth. And I really thought about that. I really put stock into that statement, because I have in the past have given out dates and predictions only to be disappointed in some ways. I'll give you one example. So this one young lady had some issues going on, and she was kept pressing me for dates. And I don't usually do that, and I don't really talk about that. But I actually gave a date. I forget the date. But it was an actual specific day, month, year about when something was going to come about. Well, of course, that date came and it passed. But the funny thing is, it did happen on that day, that month, 1 year later than I had spoken that to her. Did I actually see that coming? And perhaps I just saw something and it was coming later, because we've talked about this before, because time in the spiritual realm, whatever you'd like to call that, that existence or existential energy from outside of us, universal consciousness, spirit world, a lot of names. But that place that I have been in my consciousness, in my meditation, and other people have gone there through hypnosis that I've practiced, that it's a place where time doesn't really exist. Everything that could happen, did happen, and will happen actually happens all at the same time. So it's interesting. So one of the things I've learned from that, hard lesson from that, is that when we see things that we believe are coming, and we think we have a date, we think we have a very specific place, a person, a very specific message, I think we have to be careful how we deliver that, because you really get people's perceptions all up in an uproar, especially if it doesn't happen. But the other thing I do truly believe in is that if somebody comes to me, or anybody that does what I do, that they have such faith in what you're saying most of the time, that they will then change their perception about what's coming and develop a belief in what's coming and create that, and it will actually happen. So now if you're giving them a prediction of something that's not so good and it comes to pass, oh yeah, you might look at that and go, well, I saw it coming, but you may have also created that. And so I think we have to be careful with what we say to people. So what I've learned to do is look at glimpses of the future or things that might come to pass for the client or the person I'm talking to or doing a reading for, is simply to formulate it in a way that if you continue your life the way it is now, if you continue doing the things that you're doing, making the choices that you're making, hanging out with the people that you're hanging out with, whatever, that this is likely the glimpse of your future life if you're not careful and you don't make changes and you don't make choices that will affect something different. And it's even tougher when you see something really, really bad coming, like an accident coming or some kind of deadly event. You really have to be careful how you say that. And you might see a car crash coming up in their future, or that's what you're getting. Let me rephrase that. Maybe that's the intuition that's coming through for you for this person. Maybe you could rephrase that, which I've learned to do. I'm sorry. Is that hey, when's the last time you had your car checked? I feel like there's a little problem with your car. Maybe you should have it checked out. I mean, there's always a way to kind of convey the same message without being exacting and putting out something very, very specific. Now, I know there's people out there that have really been very, very accurate. I'm not saying that there are not things that come through that are extremely accurate and right on the money, because I've also gotten things that have absolutely come to pass. But what I think gives me better credence and better confidence in what I have seen is not to tell the person that it's going to affect, but tell somebody else and say, hey, I believe this is going to happen to this person. I believe this is what's coming, and just leave it at that. And then if it does come to pass, then you haven't influenced the person necessarily that you saw the message about. Granted, should we have told them? Well, that's kind of the fuzzy line, isn't it? Because I have a coworker, I've talked about this in a podcast, I don't know, months ago. As I was coming to work underneath this person, I saw about a week before an event happened that this person was going to be in a motorcycle accident, and that it was not going to be a very good one. And when he called me and said, hey, I'm going to wherever, I'm taking my motorcycle, I'll let you know when I get there, because in the military we're big on accountability and where people are at. And I got a call from his phone thinking he was calling me to let me know, and it was the EMS person, the ambulance person, giving me a call that he'd been in an accident. And it's just flashed in front of me that, oh my gosh, I did see and I did feel like this was coming, and it actually happened. And so I'm not saying that it doesn't happen. I just think a lot of people are getting on the bandwagon these days, thinking that they are truly seeing things, and maybe they are, and maybe their message is not as exact as it probably feels like to them. Because you also have to realize when messages come through and ideas and intuition come through that are meant to share with somebody or meant to show you something, that sometimes it's very symbolic. Because I've given people information that comes through in a reading or through meditation or through connection or however you would like to look at that. Can't really say exactly how that method works. All I know is it happens. What I have begun to realize is that sometimes the stuff that comes through doesn't make any doggone sense to the person I'm telling or to me. And even though we have conversations about it, sometimes it just still doesn't make any sense. But I've also learned, to segue into this, is that I just am meant to say what I get. And I've realized that things do at times make sense later. I've got lots and lots of examples of sometimes a year, 8 years, 10 years later that these things come to fruition. Why do you get them so early? I don't know. But the thing is, going back a step here, is that a lot of times these things come as symbology. Because sometimes what I get as a message, or what other people get, or through dreams or anything like that, it can very simply represent something else. So you have to sometimes break it out. If you see a visualization of, I don't know, a black cat or something, it doesn't necessarily mean they had a black cat or a black cat's coming into their life, but it may mean that you have to kind of do some research on that, look at what dream interpretation, for example, might mean about a black cat, or what other people have looked at as black cat in symbology, in religion and spirituality, to kind of make sense of what it is you're getting. You have to be very, very careful about being literal and exacting sometimes when you're giving information. Because, as we will summarize again, sometimes you are developing a belief system in somebody that will cause that to happen. And then it looks like you're right. Maybe you weren't right to begin with. Maybe you got something that absolutely was symbolic, and it didn't literally mean what you thought it meant. And then you've given this message to somebody, and then their life changes. And this works not just in a forward way, but it also works kind of in a backward way. What I mean by that is, I've had people come to me before, many times, and tell me that they've been cursed, or that they're cursed, and that ever since they had a reading that somebody told them that they had this black energy or this dark energy or this curse upon them, that their life has gone downhill ever since. And my first statement every time somebody comes to me with this type of dilemma is simply to say, and you believe them? So when you tell somebody something, especially when you are supposed to be the professional, the expert at what you're doing as a psychic or a medium, or there's a lot of names for those things, somebody that can see beyond themselves and get information, you are creating something within that client that many times will stay with them and will never ever leave. I can't tell you how many times I've had people come in and say they've been cursed, they've been cursed, they've been cursed. And when you really boil the story down, and it doesn't take a psychic to figure that out, when you really boil the story down and you really look back at where this originated, you will find that somebody along the way told them that. And they simply just took it on as their own, owned it, and ran with it. And now they are cursed. And you can't believe how difficult it is, even when you tell somebody that very dynamic, how hard it is for them to actually let go of that dynamic, because it has become wound in their subconscious. And as you know, if you've heard my podcasts, that the subconscious is where your life is run. It's where all the programs, where all the ideas, all your beliefs, all your perceptions have been programmed into your life. 95% of what happens every day is the same every day, because 95% of the power of your mind happens in the subconscious, which means it's outside of your conscious connection. You can access it, it takes work, it takes practice, but generally speaking, you learn to drive, you learn to walk, you learn to talk, you learn to write, you learn to do lots of things. And these things get programmed into the background so that we don't have to think about it. But the problem is that many things that happen to us in life that are not good, or at least we don't feel they're good, we don't perceive them as good. Maybe you had a hard childhood, a bad life, horrible marriage, relationships are bad. Especially when you're young, these things get wound up in that program and they become your reality. So when you are predicting things for people, if that's what you do, I am asking you, begging you almost, to be careful how you bring those things across. I worked with a practitioner out of a store that I was working out of. There were many practitioners. You rent a room for so many times a week rather. rotate people in and out of that room and in different places, and people have a place to practice, and people come because there's lots of pretties out front, all the jewelry and all the metaphysical stuff and the crystals. And so then you can work with people as they come in and kind of get them interested in what you do. Well, there was this one person that every single thing wrong with every client that came to see him was that they had demons embedded in them, around them, through them, just part of their essence. I mean, that was his answer to everything. Everything that was bad in somebody's life, in his client's life, was demonic. It was just incredible. I couldn't believe the things that this guy was telling them. And then he would sell them these packages and these services that were meant to get rid of these demons. I don't know if there's really demons. I mean, we all talk about them. We all think that is a reality, and maybe it is. I personally have interacted with entities that most people would call demonic, and they do not feel any different than any other entity that I work with that is outside of myself. So I'm not here to argue whether they exist or not. But the point is, if you tell somebody to their face, look them in the eyes and say, you have 5 demons that surround you every day, all the time. And you are somebody that's renowned and has a name in this business, they are going to believe that, and they're going to run with that, and their lives will probably never be the same again. I ask everybody out there that does this for a living, that does these kind of things, even if you're not doing it professionally, if you're doing it because you feel like you get information and you're just blurting things out to people, I ask you to kind of think about those things twice before you say them, and really be mindful of how you say them. I am not saying that you should sugarcoat the truth. If you are talking to a client and they should change and they're their worst enemy, sometimes they need to hear that. But you can't completely damage a person, or you will completely damage a person if you pull out all the stops. Sometimes people need to be fed breadcrumbs, right? You have to be careful that you're not just blasting them and then it's going to shut them down and they will never be the same. When you do help people and you do point out things and you do bring things out to light that they have not noticed, or they didn't know about themselves, or they were not aware that they were doing, and you get these things through messages and you portray them and you say them correctly, and you kind of give them the velvet glove, that punch in the face, if you will, but a very nice soft one, telling them the truth without scaring them away. Let me just say that. But a lot of people that I've noticed that are practitioners that I've been around at fairs, and do a lot of fairs, setting up a table, doing readings in the public, and when you listen to some of these other practitioners, it is just amazing to me how crazy they sound. And I talk about things that most people would say are crazy, but I'm listening to a lot of these people, and it's just, there's so many people out there that are just not authentic. It just absolutely blows my mind that people are out there just throwing out stuff. And especially when you get onto the social media platforms, oh my goodness, it's just like people are ranting and raving, and they're talking about things as if they're absolutely true. Not saying that there's not some truth in there, but be careful, people, who you are listening to. And when you come to see me, even, when I tell you what I've heard, what I'm getting, what I'm seeing, and we have a conversation about it, I encourage you and that person to do their own research. I always tell people, you shouldn't believe me. I'm just telling you what I'm hearing, what I'm getting, and some ideas of what might help you change your life. But you need to do the work. You need to do the research. You need to also dig in and hear it for yourself. Sometimes all we're meant to do is push the start button. And I think that's what, at least for me, I feel like happens for me, is simply hitting the start button. You get enough across to a client that they really begin to look at their life and start to make the changes. Because it is not the reader, it is not the intuitive, it's not the seer, it's not the psychic or medium that is causing the change. They are simply the vessel. We are simply the vessels, the messengers to deliver messages to clients, to people, to customers, however you want to look at that, that will start their journey. I've worked with some people one time only, for whatever service, even if it's a simple card reading, 15 minutes sometimes. And you see them years later and their life just took off from that point. Do I get the credit? Absolutely not. All I did was listen, convey the information, help them understand what I'm getting. We have conversations and they help me understand, well, maybe it means this because to me it means something else. We got to have conversations. Intuition is very, very important. We all have it. We're all connected. We all know everything we should. We don't always connect. We don't always trust it. But the thing is, you almost have to approach a message as if you were a politician, saying what you need to say without saying things exactly like you get them sometimes. You have to figure out what the client is like, how they perceive things, what their body language is. You got to incorporate lots of things. All right, I've kind of wiggled around a lot on this podcast, this message today, but I just want everybody to be careful out there. If you are the one receiving information from people, or you are the ones that are giving the information to people, please be mindful that belief systems are very fragile, very easy to change, easy to influence, and be mindful that you don't want to make changes in people that are not actually meant to happen. And when you receive information from people, go back and do your own meditation, do your own research, look at the symbology yourself. When somebody gets a message, when I get a message through my intuition, there's always some part of my human dynamic that's going to come through. I do my best over all these years to keep that out of it, but everybody does that. There's little pieces of us in our belief systems that sometimes come out. Not on purpose, but I still encourage everybody to do your own research. Even if I get a message about myself through a dream, through a message, through a coincidence or a synchronicity, or somebody says something, or I get my own readings, I go do my research. I do my own meditation. I do my own connection to validate it and figure it out so that it makes sense to me and it will influence my life like it should. I encourage you guys to go to my website, take a look around, contact page, products page, services page. It is lifebymazak.com, lifebymazak.com. I look forward to working with you guys. I love to talk to people. I love to work with people because I learn so much working with people. My way of doing things, my methods are all kinds of pieces of client interaction, those that have done readings for me, those that have taught me, and it just makes everybody a much more rounded and well-rounded person. I look forward to hearing from you. I look forward to working with you. Stay strong and live your life.